Welcome to Chop Shop Motors. My name is Clay, and today we're going to work on the 32 chassis with 327 in it. We're going to do a little bit of kind of final detail. When I bought it, it did not come with the Corvette fuel injection, which is on it currently. And so I want to swap intake manifolds. We're going to put this intake on it and these valve covers. It won't be for, the valve covers still need to be polished. It won't be the last time they're put on, but I do want to get it swapped around, and I don't want any dust getting in the engine while the intake's off. So we're going to just put this other intake on it and seal it all up and get it ready for when we give it a spin and do a test run on it. I'm going to take the camera into the shop, and we'll let you guys follow along as we do intake manifold swap and kind of get this ready for the next step. Okay, so we're going to pull this intake off, and so let's get started. We're going to pull the upper plenum off. It looks like it's not bolted on with all the bolts, so my guess is whoever had sold this motor probably had put it together just as a package. And so we're going to pull it apart. Makes it a little easier to get it apart when you don't have to take as many bolts out. Okay, let's see if that is all of them. Looks like it. Look at that. Well, that's pretty slick. Okay, now we'll pull off some more. All right. So the distributor's out of the way. We'll pull off some of this bracketry now. Pull the valve covers off before we pull the intake. With the plenum out of the way, it makes it pretty easy. Once we get the intake off, I'll be able to look inside and see what I bought. At least have a little closer look. Feels like this intake is just setting on it. It has an odd hollow sound, like it was never actually put on and sealed up. So my guess is it had never been run with this on it. But we'll find out here in a minute. Corvette valve covers go back. They would have stayed with it, but I opted for a different set of valve covers that he had, and that will fit this car just perfectly. Alright, let's see what the inside looks like. Okay. Inside looks good. Guide plates. Well, that's kind of interesting. I'm not sure this is a hydraulic lifter motor. Well, that doesn't feel good. Oh yeah, it's hydraulic. This side is not set at all. Okay. That's kind of what you get into when you buy somebody else's something or other. So on the other side, when I pushed down on the rocker, it did not move. It was just like it was solid. On this side, you can feel the dampener in the lifter moving. It's got a lot of lash, so it's not set right, but that's all right. So it is hydraulic. All right. Probably better for what we're doing. All right, and this popped right off. They usually don't do that. And there you have the inside. I'll bring it over and let you look inside. All right, so what are we looking at? We're looking at a 65-ish vintage 327. Here are some tells that it's an early motor. It's got a hole in the back of the block. This one has a freeze plug in it, but that is where a downdraft tube could go, or a breather tube could go. It's plugged off on this motor. If we needed it, we could pull that plug out. It's got this little can here that also is an internal vent for the crankcase. The early motors have those. If we look up here, we've got guide plates on the motors, on the valve guides, on the heads, and everything looks nice and fresh and clean. Everything inside the motor looks clean, like it's been built, just like they thought. So at this point, other than the valve lash not being right, it looks pretty good. So now, next step is I'll go ahead and put an intake on it, and we'll bolt it back together. Okay, let's set the intake on. I'd already sealed up the ends, a little sealant around the intake ports and the water jackets. Now we will start to bolt it down. Okay, let's put some bolts in. So with an intake manifold, you want to get all of them started before you tighten any of them up. Looks like we're shy 2. Okay, I saved you the grief of me starting the intake manifold bolts, got them all started, pulled down a little bit. Now we'll go ahead and torque through. So you start in the middle and you work your way around in a circle. So I start at the rear of the middle one, go to the front of the middle, go to the back of the middle, go to the front of the middle. And you just keep going in a circle. Now I come up to this front one, go to the opposite side. You're just going around in a big circle. The two at the front on this manifold, this Offenhauser, they're a little tight to get to. Okay, now I just start again. One last time, just to kind of make sure everything's cool. By this time, everything should be nice and snug. Okay. Intake manifolds bolted down. I'm going to go ahead and snug up a couple of these rockers that are super loose because it bugs me. So we'll run the valves on this later. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking all of the lash, that means all of the free play out of the rocker. The lifter still has a spring movement in it because it's not pumped up. There hasn't been any oil in the motor. And then I'm going to go around one full turn. That will set the lash for that rocker. That rocker really will never have to be set again after I start it. That's how it should be. Okay, so we'll do the same on this one. You just want to go till there's nothing, zero lash. And one turn on the preload. Okay, so basically what I did there is I pulled the motor around because I could see this rocker was not adjusted. So my guess is somebody put this together and maybe didn't have time or didn't understand how you could do it, a static adjustment on it before you ever started it. So I won't do any more on that one, only because it doesn't have any play in the lifter, and I don't want to assume, oh, that one's loose. I don't want to assume that there's still room for that dampener to take up the slack. This one doesn't have any either. So if the lifters are new and the oil pump has been primed, it's possible, even though if a motor sets for years, that that lifter will stay pumped up. So to assume that anything at this point, I just don't want to. So we'll go ahead and we can start it and run them and run the lifters after it's running. Let's put a distributor in it and go from there. Okay, let's see if we can Okay, so the oil pump is perfect. So somebody was setting it up to drop the distributor in to start it. Go. Okay, so I'm not worried about the distributor being in time. You notice I didn't even have the cap off. The next step for this motor will not be to try to start it. The next step will be to get oil pressure and run it through, take as much lash out of the valve train as possible before I ever even try to start it. So we're basically just sealing it up again and doing it with parts that I'll end up probably using on this. Okay, so let's put some valve covers on. Okay, last step. I'm going to bolt the valve covers on. I'm using 1/4 by 1.5 grade 5 bolts with 1/4 20 nut screwed on and locked on as my valve cover bolts. I've been doing it this way for a long time. I like the ease to be able to get to the nut, because on aluminum valve covers it's a little tricky, and they look professional, and that's probably, even though this is such a cool car, that is probably exactly what I'll do on it. I'm just not a big polished chrome for, I like that stuff, but I think when it comes to the motor, you're probably going to have to pull these off and on from time to time, so I tend to use more functional stuff. Okay. a couple of these started. Again, get everything started before you snug it up. Same thing, X pattern as you go around the valve cover. Don't get too carried away on these, mainly because the aluminum valve covers absolutely will break. Alright, let's put 4 more in. Let's see how it looks all wrapped up after the intake manifold change. Here it is with the Cal Custom valve covers. They are just like I found them at the LA Roadster Show swap meet. They need a polish, but they do have the Offenhauser breathers on them, which go with the intake manifold quite nicely. Cool package. The intake manifold is as cast, not polished. My plan is to keep it that way. I won't polish it. There are other parts on the car that are as cast: transmission, body, case, tail housing, etc. Go back to the quick change and we'll keep it as cast. Paint the bells, paint all the steel stuff so it's a color, but the aluminum will stay as it is. The valve covers will get polished and we'll definitely coat the exhaust. If you look, I did put a carburetor on it just to kind of finish mocking it up. It's got a Cadillac style air cleaner on it. This is an aftermarket. I think this is a Moon air cleaner. It is pretty close to what the Cadillac air cleaner looks like. One of the telltales is that the wing nut to hold it on is dead center. On the Cadillac, it's not centered. So to make it work, the Cadillac will work because you use a conventional 4-barrel intake manifold, 4-barrel carburetor base plate, and so that moves it around so it works. But the Cadillac air cleaner does move back closer to the firewall. So I have one. I can try it, and who knows? Maybe that'll end up being what it is on this car. It looks kind of cool on there. I definitely like the feel. So the verdict's out on that. We're a long way from getting ready to close the hood on it and be all done. It's also got a Purelator oil filler cap, which is a new old stock. I just dig that old new old stock stuff that is what would have probably got put on if a 25-year-old would have been building a hot rod like this back in, you know, 66 or something. And at least that's where my imagination goes. Other than that, the motor is fresh. We've confirmed that. It'll get a fresh coat of orange paint and detailed out. Lots of work to do on that. I mean, we haven't run it or anything. You saw the valve train needed some work. It's got a stock distributor in it now. We might upgrade that to some kind of dual point, just because that would probably fit the build. But other than that, that's the progress. We're gonna button it up. I think we've got everything off of it now that needs to go back to the previous owner, and we can move on to doing stuff that we want to do to it. I'm excited for that part. Lots of projects going on here, and so we're keeping all the plates spinning. I'm Clay for Chop Shop Motors, and we'll see you on the next project.